The kid just keeps trying to bet on himself and he just keeps taking losses.
The Brendan Sorsby saga is at an end, at least for now. The NFL made him aware that his petition for special eligibility, dated June 16, 2026, is rejected. As Noah said, this kid keeps betting on himself and he keeps losing, and I gotta say, I love it.
You gave it a little bit of energy with that intro. I'm with you though. At this point, I am so sick and tired of this conversation. Like, I think it hit ahead for me with yesterday's video talking about the prospect of maybe trading Shador Sanders, and maybe that means that we're super interested in Brendan Sorsby. But the amount of times we've sat on this show and talked about players with character issues and their potential to be on the Browns or coming to the Browns or they are on the Browns. I'm just sick of dealing with it, and I'm sick of talking about it as a fan, as a guy who sits down and talks about Cleveland sports multiple times a week. So to me, for this to finally be at what I think is an end, I don't think there's any coming back from this at this point. I'm happy. I'm happy to be moving on from it and moving forward towards figuring out what we got in Shador. And if not, let's look at 2027's draft class and leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Noah. And here's the thing, the league sent out a letter from the NFL attorney Lawrence P. Farazani Jr. In it, it's long. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I am going to pull pieces out of it because I wholeheartedly agree with what the NFL is saying here. They said your petition, filed 3 business days before the deadline without any supporting information or documentation, and only after abandoning your recent litigation efforts to avoid NCAA sanctions, does not provide a basis for the league to alter those plans, meaning their plans not to hold a supplemental draft this year. The league is very clear here. You have in The league is very clear here. You have put at risk the integrity of the game, and at least for now, we want nothing to do with you. He said reported conduct included placing wagers on your own team and teammates, and to avoid detection, establishing or funding accounts in the names of intermediaries who place bets on your behalf. There are also reports that you may have violated state criminal law. Your petition does not address these matters, nor does it demonstrate accountability for your conduct or indicate whether or how you would adhere to the league's rules and policies governing the integrity of competition. And finishing with, as Commissioner Goodell has emphasized, participation in the NFL is a privilege that carries with it significant responsibilities, including accountability. They are very clear here. You bet that you could get away with this. You violated rules. And what happens when you violate rules? You're punished. Except you're too good for punishment. You sued the institution that sought to punish you and said, "Oh, no, 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 no. I'm above the law. I can do whatever I want." And then when it became a fever pitch, when teams don't want to play with you, when everyone's throwing their toys out of the pram, so to speak, because nobody wants to have to deal with this headache, you just say, "You know what? I'm going to abscond to the NFL. Screw the NCAA. I'm done with college." The NFL says, "Not a chance, buddy. We don't want you."
And that's what I think gets lost here in terms of what we thought could happen with Brandon Sorsby. Like, the NFL wants to play nice with the NCAA. That's the feeder system to their league. So it makes absolutely no sense for them to be like, oh, well, they didn't break any rules while he was here because he wasn't here yet. So let's get him in here because he's a talent. No, they're going to play nice with whatever the NCAA has to say. You could see examples of that with Terrell Pryor. You could see examples of that in years upon years past of people getting suspended when they come to the league. And suspension is the key word here because if you look at what his attorney said that they are going to continue to pursue this because it's in violation of the CBA and they're going to join
No,
in
it's
with the
not.
NFLP. No, it's not. It's not. That was literally part of the headline that came out. First of all, the CBA allows the league to decide whether to hold a supplemental draft in any year, and they aren't right now. But back to what I was saying, uh, even if for some reason they get past all of this legally again, the league's just going to suspend him for, conduct detrimental to the league anyway for a year. This is his suspension. So it's time to buckle up, sit down, take your punishment, and move on. And whatever that did to your draft stock and it's continuing to do to your draft stock, your fault now, not ours.
Yeah, exactly. Deal with the consequences. I think this is why I'm so fiery, Noah, because we talked about this. We talked about him not actually taking accountability for his actions. I was on that side the whole time. What surprises me a little bit is that no owner, no team pushed hard. I mean, if they really wanted to push, they could probably have a supplemental draft. But the thing is, he got this letter. The NFL could have also said politely, we're not holding a supplemental draft. Best of luck. No, they outlined in many paragraphs their issue. The NFL is very much annoyed at Brendan Sorsby, and in my opinion, for very good reason.
And it's highlighted by the fact that we, the public, know about it. It isn't like it's some private letter. Like this is Adam Schefter. We're reading from Adam Schefter, the exact letter that was sent to Brendan Sorsby and his camp when they told him, no, we're not doing this supplemental draft because you don't deserve to be in the league right now. You've got bigger fish to fry. You have to atone for your sins. Now, I understand and I get and I comprehend the gamble, and yes, I know that's a bad pun, but the gamble to take Brendan Sorsby in the supplemental draft for low risk, high reward, I guess is the best way to put it, because of the draft capital that you would give up. And that's why I've kind of been in favor with the thought process of going for it. But at this point, to come back and triple, quadruple, however many times down that we're talking about suing and going to court, and this is in violation and our rights are infringed, I'm over it, man. Just take your medicine. You lost. It's over. And stop kicking, screaming, and whining your way trying to get into playing football for a meaningful league this year.
Yeah, I want to talk about what this means for the Browns briefly, but first, a word from our sponsor. At the Office is brought to you by Rambler Reserve.
And we're wearing the hats right now.
We are wearing the hats right now, and honestly, this might be one of the best looking things I've put on my head in years.
Rambler Reserve is a Cleveland apparel brand based on history for people who love this city and just can't shut up about it.
So, us?
Us, exactly. Whether it be hats, tees, hoodies, you're going to the game, or you're going to the Muni lot. It's perfect apparel for any Cleveland fan out there.
If your friends say you ramble too much about sports, just own it. Head on over to ramblerreserve.com and use code ATO10 to get 10% off your order.
That's ATO10. ATO like at the office 10, ramblerreserve.com.
Back to Brendan Sorsby after the NFL wrote the smoothest, sincerely fuck you letter in the history of sports, perhaps. Noah, I do want to talk about what this means for Sorsby in potentially other leagues, what it means for the Browns. Let's touch on it briefly and then be done because I'm sick of talking about this kid.
Yeah, this is kind of us wrapping the bow on this entire situation because even if they sue, like I said before the break, I think he's going to get suspended. And it's just a whole nother can of worms that I don't want to deal with. And I don't think many NFL teams are going to deal with at this point. It's just become too much of a headache. But some other teams that might deal with Brendan Sorsby are other leagues, the USFL. The Canadian Football League, one of the many arena leagues that still exist across our beautiful country. He has the ability to go play there. And I think that's where this is going to end up landing Brandon Sorsby for the 2026 fall season, at least, is him playing in some different league in a weird way because that's the only way he can put tape out or practice or continue to be in football shape. What do you think is going to happen with Sorsby? Is he going to another league? Is he just going to work out a ton?
I think, first of all, I think he needs to eat his medicine here. And I say that, like, come close, kid. Let me give you a little bit of advice. Do not sue the NFL. If you think North Korea is a dictatorship, just wait until you see what happens if you try suing your way into this league. Even if you win, even if you make sure that there's a supplemental draft, I'm going to take out my little crystal ball. I don't have one, but I'm going to pretend I have a crystal ball and I'm going to tell you your future. Here's what's going to happen. You sued the NFL. You guarantee that there's a supplemental draft. That's not even going to happen anyway. No team, not a single one, put in a pick for you. Not one. You're not getting drafted in the supplemental draft that you forced their hand to do. Because that's the power that the NFL has. If they really don't want something to happen, look at Colin Kaepernick. I don't want to open that can of worms right now. But if the NFL does not want you to play football, you will not be playing football. Period. End of. So eat the medicine, actually take accountability for your actions, which you haven't. I don't care about the PR rehab stint. You have not done so to this point. Stop suing everybody. And to answer your question, if I were him, I'd probably just work out a ton. I'm not sure that I would go play in
The
another league,
Deshaun
risk
Watson
injury.
route. You wanna go the
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson route. Okay, that's fair.
yeah.
I think we'll see something crazy. I think it'll be a nice rating spike for our brothers up north in Canada or something like that. That's where I land with this whole situation, but I agree with you. This is could continue to turn into something more and more ugly for Sorsby if he doesn't just take his medicine. If he goes in the supplemental draft and no one wastes a pick on him, then he's free to sign with whatever team he wants in the NFL, just for context for our viewers if that does
Right.
happen. But again, I put that at like what? A 2% chance that something gets overturned. Like, there is no way the NFL doesn't win this after what this letter says. And we're going to link it down below too if you want to read the whole thing and not just Eric's excerpts from it. But I want to talk about what this means for the Cleveland Browns now, because there was a lot of rumblings about Shador Sanders and potentially trading him. And, we linked that maybe to the interest of Brendan Sorsby. And it wasn't just us, there was Jared Mueller at the Origin Brown report talking about this. So, what do you think this means for the Cleveland Browns going into 2026 now? Just briefly, because he was never officially coming here. There was a lot of butting heads between Andrew Berry and Todd Monken in terms of the words that they were saying to the media. So, what do you think this all means for the Cleveland Browns in 2026?
4 words: Shador won't be traded. Like, period. Like, the only way that I think that the Browns were doing their due diligence, because there was a possibility of bringing in a different guy. At this point, there makes zero sense unless they're really trying to tank for that pick in 2027, and just say F it. If Deshaun gets hurt at some point, then we'll put in the backup Green, I guess. I don't know. God in heaven forbid that it's one Dylan Gabriel. I can't even think of his name at most points. Um, but my point is, like, I don't think there's any reality at this point where Shador Sanders is on the trade block. I think the Browns wanted to get an idea of what they could get for him. I don't think they liked what that answer was. And now that Sorsby's out of the conversation and the other prospects around the league of who they could potentially bring in don't sound very appealing, I think that's completely on ice at this point.
So basically, what you're saying right now here on air is that Tony Rizzo is full of it, right? So he just came up with it for the most part, like in terms of how
No,
deep the calls were. I'm kidding, of course, because it goes against what you just said. I
right,
do think that they were doing their due diligence. I do think that that happens in terms of any player, any roster member, barring having like a Patrick Mahomes, right? Like one of those like upper echelon names. Like it very much happened with Miles Garrett until it didn't. Like you
right.
listen to phone calls. That's what your job is as the NFL GM. To me, it means this. We're continuing with the same storylines that we thought. I don't think that there's another quarterback to come in here. I think the only quarterback to really leave here is probably going to be Dylan Gabriel, because I don't think they can't roster Taylor Green. It's all can't practice squad Taylor Green rather. Excuse me. I think it's all what we've been talking about and covering. I think this was a blip in the road in terms of a little bit of shock that a prospect the level of Brendan Sorsby is there. But to me, it comes back to play the young players. Let's see what they got. And let's move forward to 2027, knowing what we have in Shador Sanders, what we have in a lot of these young pieces that we've drafted in the last 2 years, and move forward that way, because it's exciting for us as fans to do that. And it makes the most sense for the front office to understand what they have before they go into what is going to be the most pivotal draft for the Cleveland Browns in the history of the franchise, which is 2027, in my opinion.
One final question to wrap it all up and be done. I want to know what your original thought was when you heard this news about Sorsby and no supplemental draft. Because I got to be honest, everything that I said in in this show is exactly how I feel. I don't like Sorsby. I think he did put the integrity of the game in question, and I really like how the NFL landed here. And yet, there was a very small piece of me as a Browns fan that was a little sad, because I talked about how we chase new and shiny, and it doesn't always work out. I was a little bit excited by maybe it's the hoopla of it all, of the possibility, and now it's yanked away.
Yeah, so at first I was completely on the train of, yeah, let's give a third or a fourth round to bring Brendan Sorsby in. But as this has continued to, you know, play out in the media and become as big of a thing as it is, and seeing how him and his agent and his lawyer are reacting, him being Brendan Sorsby, of course, I was happy that it's kind of like you're done, dude.
Yeah.
It's over with for right now. Like you can potentially be in the 2027 class and enter that way like everyone else, but you're not getting your way out of this at this point. Like that's what I think has become the most frustrating is the back and forth and the in between. Like I'm just happy it's over with. It was a sigh of relief. That was what my reaction was, truthfully and honestly.
Well, as far as I know, that injunction is still in place. So does he crawl his way back to Texas Tech, or is that just written off at this point?
It has to be written off at this point, man. They told him, take your money and go. We're not dealing with this. And I think he doesn't want to deal with it either. I'm just like, I think most people involved with this situation are just so sick of dealing with it. I mean, at the end of the day, he placed the bets himself. He did this to himself, whether it's an addiction, which I agree, obviously, it's an addiction and it's a problem, and hopefully he got help. And if that's the case, blase, blase, blah, but it's time to move on. It's time to take your medicine, swallow it, and be done with this. And let's talk about you in 2027 when you're going to be like a fifth or sixth round pick after all of this mess that you have caused yourself.
I want to know what you think. Leave a comment. Let us know. Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play it as well. 216-260-3433. I have just a couple words to finish this one, Noah, and that's wrists up, baby. On that note, the debate never ends, but the show does for now. We'll see you next time.